Yo, what's up, y'all? We out here, 3 degrees buffer. You know how we roll. We in the office today, mix it up. And in this video, I wanted to expand on a short that I actually recorded yesterday. So let me see if I can play this for you real quick.
If Christians really reflected Christ, they'd be amongst the most loved people that you know. Now, that's not a condemnation, but a motivation.
Okay.
If Christians
So you hear it there. If Christians actually reflected Christ, then they could be some of the most loved people that you know. And it's not a condemnation, but a motivation. What do I mean by this? Now, when you look at the life of Jesus, I think it's pretty clear that he encapsulated a lot of things, right? But in addition to the teaching and the preaching and the rebukes that he gave against the Pharisees and leave your sin behind, there was a lot of just relational things that he did to engage with people. Whether it was the woman caught in adultery, whether it was the lepers, any other social outcasts, a tax collector, fishermen, the people considered not good enough to get into synagogue and train to be a Pharisee. Jesus was accused of, oh man, look at him, his best friends are sinners. And he even had to almost defend himself in a sense by saying, you know, the Son of Man came to seek and to save that which was lost. And he said that it's not the righteous who are in need of a savior. So he's trying to give them the context for the things that he's doing. But these individuals, the religious leaders, in their self-justification and self-righteousness, thought to put him down by trying to put these things on him. Now, that to me is fascinating because for us who are Christians, I'll put it that way, for those of us who are Christians, we look at things like the commandments as the things we should do. Jesus said we should follow Jesus, and we immediately go to the commandments and this list of what we perceive to be do's and don'ts. And again, I can't say this enough. We miss out on the beauty of the Ten Commandments because it's really a relational covenant that's being made, not just a list of do's and don'ts that God is putting on his people, right? I'm the Lord your God who delivered you from the bondage of Egypt, yada, yada. And that's how the Ten Commandments actually start before he reveals these things that kind of go hand in hand with the fact that God has already quantified himself as the deliverer who wants to be in a relationship with his people. So when you look at the New Testament aspect of it, when it comes to following Christ, we do the same thing. We look at the things that Jesus said and we take it just as a list of do this, don't do this, do this, don't do this. And we forget the relational aspect of who Jesus actually is. We forget about how little kids wanted to be around him. We forget how people in their families were chasing him and following him because of what they believed they could get from him, what he had to say. And, you know, a lot of people believed him to be the Messiah because of his interaction with John the Baptist, because of the things that they heard. And it was just incredible for them that somebody who had this kind of influence and this kind of power would see fit to associate with them, right? So we get so hung up on the laws that we forget the relational aspect. And I think in doing so, we miss the point. There were a lot of comments on that short that I put out yesterday, things along the lines of, well, I promise you, half of the people or more, their first comment was, well, the world hated Jesus, so it will hate you too. That's the first comment. And it's interesting to me that this is the first response of people who think that that's what being Christian is all about. Oh, well, Jesus was hated, so I'm going to be hated too. And they wear that as a badge of honor. But here's the issue. If I wear something like that as a badge of honor, what it means is, well, the world is going to hate me anyway, so I don't have to worry about relational capital with you. I can approach you any kind of which way I want to, just to tell you that you're wrong and call you out in your sin. Never mind that I'm also a sinner. We don't talk about that, right? I can use the strongest language. Oh, you're going to hell. You need to change this. You're a sinner. Get out of your sinful ways. It gives myself the license to do all kinds of things like this because you're going to hate me anyway. So I might as well just tell you straight. And we miss the whole beauty of the gospel. Good news is not good news is not, hey, you're doing something wrong and you're going to hell. That's not good news. Good news is that there's somebody who's more powerful than us, bigger than us, more holy than us, who still wants to have a relationship with us. And that he did something and sacrificed something so that we could be with him in that relationship forever. That's the beauty of it. Like, again, the gospel, when you think of John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whosoever believes in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. The good news is not that because you're a sinner, you're going to hell. It's the opposite of that. Somebody came, you believe in him, you can live forever. And yet, when it comes to this idea of trying to be like Christ, in the minds of so many Christians, the emphasis is on, well, the law. Let me focus on the law. Let me do this like this and let me do it like that. And if I'm out of line with that, I'm messing up. Never mind the relationship. When the entirety of the whole thing was about relationship. It's amazing. I'm doing this paper. I've been talking about it for a couple weeks now. It's my theology of mission paper for one of my doctorate classes. And I'm exploring the covenants and the concept that runs through all the covenants, summed up in Isaiah 59, 21 through 60, verse 2, and essentially brought forth in the narrative of Peter and Cornelius. And it's relationship that Jesus was trying to build with his people and saying, hey, this is the thing I've blessed you with. Share this blessing with everybody else as well. That's something that finally clicks for the people of God in the time of the apostles due to the power and influence of the Holy Spirit. And here we are thousands of years later, seeing that witness, seeing that example, seeing that the covenants were not just about a list of do this and don't do this, seeing that they're actually about relationship between us and God. And we still treat and sum up Christianity as if it's a bunch of do this and don't do this. And if you do this, you're on the good side. If you don't do this, you're on the bad side. Like, it blows my mind that after so many years and after so much study, and just after just plain reading the text, you don't have to really, like, you don't have to have a PhD to understand that. And yet this is what we do. This is what we do. We sum up the entirety of the Christian experience to, well, if I'm going to be like Jesus, it means that they're going to kill me. It means that people are going to hate me. So now it doesn't matter how I approach or how I talk to anybody. And this is the interesting thing. Most of the people that started off with that verse as a rebuttal to what I had said in the short, all did it with some kind of sharpness or some tone or what are you talking about kind of an attitude. The other people who agreed with it and actually broke down or maybe had other questions on it, they didn't do that whatsoever. But it was the people so focused on that starting point verse of what it means to relate to being like Jesus. And it shows in the way that they communicate, even as a Christian to other Christians. It's amazing, but they don't see that. So this is a quick hitter, and I'll probably go into this a little bit later. But I want to echo again. When you look at the way that Jesus interacted with people when he was here on this earth, the majority of people, kids wanted to be around him. Suffer not the little children to come to me. Let them come. They wanted to. And they were scared to go up to him because people were saying, no, there's not a place for you here. The disciples, Christ's own followers, had it twisted. And they're like, hey, man, send this woman away. She's bothering him. Send these kids away. They're bothering him. He's like, no. Bring them to me. Bring them to me. There was room for that relationship there with Jesus, not just do this and don't do that. And we miss that. We miss that. Following Jesus and following in the commands that he gave us is so much more than just a list of rights and wrongs. And unfortunately, the majority of Christians today summarize their entire belief system around what is right and what is wrong. They've made their whole creed about being right and not about relationship. And I think they're missing part of the boat. Do the commandments matter? Absolutely. I'm not saying they don't. I'm just saying that people take the relationship aspect out of the equation when they look just at the commandments. And that excludes a whole lot of people when you do that. And now I'll take it one step further before I wrap this video up. This is the most interesting thing. You have all these people, well, do what I command, and what I command is going to be calling people out on their sin. I don't know where they get this from anyways, like as if this is the only thing Jesus ever did, which couldn't be further from the truth. But they talk about the commandments, right? And they go back to, oh, well, 10 commandments this and 10 commandments that. It's all this do this and don't do this kind of mentality. But what did Jesus say the commandment was? He actually asked people this as he was talking or teaching one day. And the greatest commandment, he said, what is the greatest commandment? To love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind. And then what's the second greatest commandment? To love your neighbor as yourself. And then he said something really interesting. He said that on these two hang all the law and the prophets. So everything about the 10 commandments, everything about the other covenants from before, everything about all the commandments and things that God had set up for his people, all of that could be summed up in two things: love God with everything that you have, and love someone else the same way that you love yourself. That's it. Jesus said that. And yet, again, we skip through all of that when it comes to what does it mean to follow Jesus. Well, I'm not going to talk about that love part because that's too soft. No. I need to call somebody out in their sin. These people are wrong and I need to save them, because if I don't, they're all going to hell. That's the mentality, right? But if you think about it, love your neighbor as yourself. This is the way that we show the world that we love God, because we're able to read 1 John. If you have any question about what I'm saying here in regard to loving others as a reflection of how we love God. All right. It's there and it's beautiful. But that's the thing. Loving our neighbor as ourselves informs the first one of loving God above all else. That's how we do it. They will know we are Christians by our love. That's how we show that. That's how we prove our devotion and our appreciation for God. But here's the thing. The same ones who are talking about, oh, because I follow Christ, I'm supposed to call out everybody else in their sin. Loving others as you love yourself would mean that the same treatment that people are so quick to give to other people, they would be 100% welcome in accepting it that exact same way. And you know that's not true. You know that is not true. Shoot, take social media and the internet, for example. Half the people who can dish it out can't take it. You got everybody who wants to be a nice little keyboard warrior and say whatever they want. But then they get all defensive and all offended if somebody comes back at them with the same energy. It doesn't match. If we're going to really show that we love God, we have to love others the way that we love ourselves. And let's be real, we do love ourselves. Most of us do. We love ourselves. But that should inform the way that we interact with somebody else. Because if I don't want to hear something super condemning, super accusatory, super demeaning, if I don't want to hear that my life is trash and I'm going to hell, then I shouldn't communicate that way to somebody else either. And guess what? That's holding up to that second commandment of loving others as you love yourself. And that's an expression of showing that you love God, because you understand that. So for Christians, I say it again. It is not a condemnation, but it's an inspiration and a motivation. It's not saying that just because you do all the good things that Jesus did and be nice to the people around you, show God's love to them, it doesn't mean that they're automatically going to love you and you're going to be the best thing since sliced bread. That's not what it means. But can you leave a better impact in the world around you? Can you leave a better imprint for Christ in the space that you inhabit? Can you leave a better witness? I think so. And I think any and all of that would be better than this mentality that Christians somehow get stuck in of you're wrong, I'm right, and let me tell you about it. It's more than that. It has to be more than that, because Jesus was about more than that. So keep that in mind. Anyways, let me know what you think. down below. You know how we roll. Like, subscribe, share, and we out. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.